Hey, aloha, everybody, and welcome back to the ThinkTech Hawaii studios. We've got another episode of Security Matters for you today. So good morning from Honolulu. Today, Eddie Reynolds is with us. She is the founder and CEO. I'm going to try to teach you, let her teach you as much about her as she can share on social media. You know how things are these days. But Eddie, I really appreciate you jumping in. As the owner of a company, I really appreciate your time because I do know how valuable it is. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to let Eddie give you her background, and then I'm going to fill in all the stuff she probably won't want to brag about because she's fairly humble. So if you leave a bunch of them gaps out, Eddie, I'm going to just brag on you a bit. So as much as you'd like to share, maybe just give our audience, for them who may not know you, sort of, your background, maybe how you got introduced to the industry, and then some of your history in the industry, and, what was the day? I really want to hear about that motivating day when you said, I can do this on my own, and you got started with Illuminar. So great stuff. Thanks again.
Well, I started in the security industry. It just happened to be a friend of mine from middle school and high school that I ran into at a restaurant. He was going out of a restaurant and I was going in, and this is in Houston, which is where I grew up. And he said, what are you doing for a living? And at the time I was selling, I was a sales merchandiser for organic hair and skincare products for African Americans. This is in the early 90s. So, organic was new. Anyway, so he said, how'd you like to get into security? And I said, well, I don't want to be a guard because, most people, that's all we know when you say security, right? So I went and interviewed with him, and that was for a company named Chubb Security. And Chubb Security, as you know, is British, and they had started branches in Canada, and then they decided to open up some branches in Texas. So in the US, they only had San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, and Houston. Well, after 2 years over there, I went to work for a company called Pinkerton Systems Integration. And Bill Bozeman was the boss for the region because Pinkerton had bought his old company, Delta Audiovisual. So I worked for Bill, and he was a fantastic guy, very supportive. This was in the late 90s, and I was the only woman working for the organization, both organizations. And there was me as a Black person and one other Black gentleman, and we were new to the industry. So me being a Black female, I was able to close a lot of deals.
Awesome.
Because the guy said that they'd rather see, somebody coming in wearing lipstick rather than another dude. So that gave me the advantage. And then after that, I went to what Pinkerton allowed me to transfer from their Houston office to their Los Angeles office. And I worked there for a little while. And then I went to work for a company called Rainbow CCTV, and they sold lenses. And Rainbow was starting to OEM a product called infrared illuminators that they got from a company called Extreme. So we had the exclusive. So I learned about lighting from Rainbow CCTV. And now this is in the year 2000. And I just kept thinking, gosh, I'm doing well in sales all the time. I'd rather make myself rich than to keep making other people, wealthy. So I just kind of put it out there to the universe, on a prayer, asking God to give me an opportunity to have my own business. That opportunity came in 2005. I was partners with the British lighting company. That didn't work out. We sued them. And in 2008, and the money that my partner and I got, we started Illuminar to compete with them. So that's how Illuminar got started in January 2009. And now we're an international company. We have applications worldwide for general surveillance, medical, and smart cities. So it's pretty cool, more than I ever imagined.
Isn't that amazing? You apply yourself, you have the right blessings, and it all just comes together sometimes. And obviously the industry needed it. You definitely identified something that was of value to the industry. Let's go back just a minute. So when back to the Pinkerton days, and I might get around to Bill Bozeman if I can work him in here, but was the business, I'm thinking petroleum and banking. When I think of Texas, I think of, energy and banking.
You're absolutely right.
Were there other sectors, or was that kind of the specialty that you started in?
Well, the majority of the business was oil and gas and banking. But what I would do is I would go in the files and look and see who we hadn't spoken to in about 5 years, because even back then technology was evolving all the time. And I remember Enron, okay, that's a blast from the past. Enron was looking for smart cards because they had people with, I guess in their cafeteria, they had credit and their access control card. So they wanted the smart chip. So this is the late 90s. It was hard to find, but I found it in Germany. So that was cool. And DVRs was difficult to find. Only NICE had them at the time. And that was for Halliburton. So while certain people were working on oil and gas and banking, I was looking at all the others. So those were my big jobs, Enron, which we know what happened there, and Halliburton, and then fire departments. I mean, I just went wherever there was business, that's where I went.
Wow. And the industry was sort of closed back then. So, I mean, I remember those nice DVRs. They were sort of difficult to get your hands on.
Yeah, they were $15,000 a piece back then.
Yeah. And there was some exclusivity in certain areas. Like, you couldn't necessarily just get a dealership for them, right? So there was those sort of proprietary issues in our industry back in those days. I also remember Rainbow. It seemed like Rainbow was through distribution, like at ADI, but their lenses were on almost every camera that you saw.
That's right. They did a lot of OEM and they did a lot of distribution. So that's where I got my international experience working for Rainbow, because at first I started out as a regional, and then they promoted me to director of sales for national and OEM accounts. And then they were grooming me to take over sales and marketing. So I started traveling internationally with the company, and I just soaked up as much as I could.
Yeah, what a great experience, especially coming, from that hot area of industry. Let's since you brought up Bill, I love Bill. We all love Bill. Bill's probably one of the hardest working guys in the industry. How was he to work for? Because he's always giving me stuff to do, and I don't know. I'm willing to work pretty hard, but how was he to work? I don't get paid. It was all volunteer stuff I do. But how was he to work for back in the day? We'll give a little shout out to some history here.
Hey, Bill Bozeman. Well, my experience was very positive with Bill. Again, being the only woman in the sales force, he just wanted to make sure that I was taken care of. But again, yeah, he was, he wasn't around sitting with us all the time, but he was busy working. But my interactions that I did have with him, even to this day, is always very positive. And of course, I was a newbie back then, and for him to see me now with my own company, gives him a sense of pride. But again, like I said, the branch manager, John Hammond, was the one that gave me the start at Pinkerton and allowed me to go to Los Angeles, which in turn afforded me to start Illuminar. So I really thank them for that.
It's amazing. You mentioned being the only woman there, and I mean, was that maybe you had to survive that sort of scenario for quite a while? I mean, we're finally encouraging more women to join our industry, and but how long was it before you walked in a security office and saw another woman? Just can you remember off the top of your head?
Not anywhere I worked. I mean, if there were women there, they were an HR or reception or marketing coordinator, not in sales. So as long as I had my 2 systems integration jobs, you know what? I worked for Sony for a little while. And when I worked for Sony, Melissa Sabo, that's not her last name anymore, but she worked as a regional for Sony as well. So I think that was the first time that I had a woman colleague. We were both in sales. Mm-hmm. And that was 2002. Wow.
Yeah. So we're, all the old bald-headed guys are waiting to get pushed out. We all need to retire. Everyone's heard me say this, so it's nothing new. We have an amazing, brilliant cohort of women in our Women in Security Forum. And I know you're on the I think the board of SIA as well as on our Women in Security Forum.
Yeah, I'm an executive council member, and I just signed up with Women in Security because I didn't know about it, just being so busy. But COVID allows you to just like you and I thought we were connected already because we're just like, we're just right on top of each other. And it was like, what do you mean we're not connected? So it's just crazy.
Yeah, I was surprised to see. I was like, what? Okay.
I know, right? Because I'm like, I see you all the time.
Yeah, it was it. Well, you had that show with Christine, right? You and Rebecca, you guys had the stage up there for WISF. So we are, I think, I don't know, 500 plus, maybe approaching 600 strong now in the Women's Security Forum. And that number continues to grow. And the interesting thing for me is we have women who are integrators, who are engineers, who are doing software. I think a lot of people, women, people, period, don't understand all the opportunity that's available in our industry. They think security, as you mentioned before, guards and guns, but we have technology companies such as your own that write software and code. And, we have all this manufacturing and development outside of the integrator world, which has its own specializations. How do you think we can encourage more women to kind of get into our industry? What would be a pull to your mind, to get them at least introduced?
Well, I think what the Women in Security Forum does on LinkedIn, how you guys do a spotlight feature, because like I said, a lot of times you only know what you know. And I didn't know about security, and then I knew about being a systems integrator. I didn't know about manufacturing, and then I learned from a headhunter. So your network really brings you there. It's about who you know and learning. So that's how I found out about it, and I've been in it now for a long time. Once you get in, you can't get out.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, how many people really leave this industry? Because it's such a giving industry. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we all feel good about what we deliver. It's still out there protecting lives, while we're home sleeping. I mean, I think it's a great industry from a technology industry perspective.
Yes.
So that mentorship, we've had some discussion about that. Do you think we need to promote that networking more? I mean, I try to encourage these men that have been around forever, to introduce up and coming people, men, women, younger members of our industry, because it's those networks and knowing people, like you mentioned, that are so important to helping you sort of find your place in our industry, whatever it may be. And, if you're young, 20 or 30 years old, there's a lifetime to grow in our industry, and what do you think we can do to encourage that for the people that are just joining us today?
Two things. One, to recruit new people. And I know in SIA, we're looking at historically Black colleges and universities, which I'm already doing mentoring for that through the International Association of Black Security Executives. So I'm happy to see that SIA is partnering with IOBSC for that. Because I do go to the historically Black university because I'm a product of that from my parents. But also, don't just look at the young people, look at that secretary, look at that marketing coordinator. Do they do a good job? Would they like an opportunity in sales? Sometimes you have it right in front of your face and it's not always the young person. How about the older person? Are they passionate? Are they friendly? Can they carry on a conversation? Give them a job in the industry. Don't just look at what's on a resume. How about that? Your local waiter, is he a good person? Is he working hard? He can multitask, or she can multitask and carry on a conversation. I think we need to start looking outside the box instead of looking at a piece of paper where, they have all these degrees but they have no work experience. They're just good on paper.
You make a great point, especially for us to look inward and move our people around laterally.
Yes.
I think it's a great idea. So we're going to take a break right now. We're going to pay some bills, and we'll be back right in about 1 minute with Eddie Reynolds. Just stick around.
Hi, I'm Rusty Komori, host of Beyond the Lines on ThinkTech Hawaii. I was the head coach for the Punahou boys varsity tennis team for 22 years, and we were fortunate to win 22 consecutive state championships. My show is based on my book, also titled Beyond the Lines, and it's about leadership, creating a superior culture of excellence, and finding greatness. I feature a wide range of amazing guests who share valuable insights about how going beyond the lines leads to success in everything you do in life. I'm looking forward to you joining me every Monday at 11 a.m. Aloha.
Hey, aloha, and welcome back to Security Matters. We are talking with Eddie Reynolds of Illuminar, and we are going to get to the technology, I promise, but I'm having so much fun just learning about Eddie and her perspectives on women in security. So we talked about this sort of like cross-promotion. It was a great idea you had, folks that have been around the industry, sitting in an office, maybe looking for a new opportunity. That's worked well for us at IST in the integrator space. We've managed to move people around into sales and into system integration or like system engineering and also project management from installation roles, in fact. So they've come up and become even our ops manager used to be an installer years ago. So I love that idea. How is that on the manufacturing side? I know your business is a little obviously different than ours. Are those same opportunities available, you think, across the spectrum of the sort of ecosystem of our industry?
Well, we have a third-party contract manufacturer in the UK, and we're pretty tight. And so when I go there, they do a lot of cross hiring of people inside their organization, which I like a lot, because then people are happy, they have job security, and they know that you're loyal to them and they're going to be loyal to you and do the best job that they can.
Yeah, our industry has such a growth trajectory. I've talked to the high school kids about this out here. If you can just come in and get started and learn a little bit about low voltage electricity, ultimately you can work you up into coding, working for our manufacturers. There's really, I don't see a limit to it, especially with the way technology, the rate of change of technology. And, as a manufacturer, you've seen that yourself. What would you tell the youth, starting off today, if they really want to go work for Apple or Microsoft? I know they want to do something super crazy for the world. But if they were getting into our industry, from the manufacturing perspective, what sort of challenges do you think they could find for themselves there that they could take advantage of?
Well, the challenges are manufacturing in general. There's so many parts to it. And for me, I didn't take a business class of any kind. I just worked for large corporations and just soaked up everything like a sponge. So one thing I would say is wherever you work, you always want to constantly learn and get to know everybody and just kind of listen to their stories. And again, that was when I was an integrator. I didn't know anything about cameras or anything, but I took trainings. I had a systems engineer, and he and I partnered together because he wasn't good at sales and I wasn't good at the technical. So we were a tag team and we were successful. We split everything 50-50. So I got to sit and hear what he had to say, and that's how I learned. And that's how I learned with lighting. Again, in lenses, it's just basically learn as you go on the job, and that would tell you whether somebody has that get up and go about them, because it really isn't easy. And I don't know if they have it. I mean, yes, they have electrical contracting classes and you have business classes, but manufacturing, that's a hard deal that thank goodness I have a third-party contract manufacturer that I don't have to worry about it too much, but I am in on the design and the engineer of the product.
That's awesome.
So
and
cool.
It's lighting itself has changed. My team tends to run me out of the lab these days, say leave me alone. But I know that we've got more. These pixel densities suck a lot of light, and I don't think a lot of people know that. They want to get that high megapixel image and that great resolution, and that looks great in the daylight.
Right.
But I mean, as soon as dusk comes or it's still dawn, and that camera is so hungry for light because of that pixel density. What's happening in the industry to address that? I mean, have you had to increase the intensity of the like the illumination, or is it a different type of spectrum? I don't know a lot about IR illumination or white light illumination.
Well, Andrew, it's going to be as simple as this. When I was a systems integrator, we didn't have lighting, and we had to quote an electrician to put in a pole with a street lamp. Okay. Sure. So I wish we had the lighting that I had, because we were leaving a lot of money on the table, and the electricians started to take the camera deals. They'd say, I'd just give, I'll just throw the cameras in because they'd get the labor. But honestly, it's the camera manufacturers that give a false sense of what the video should look like. And unfortunately, they brainwash the industry that poor pictures is a fantastic thing. So just like how you see in the daytime, you should have a clean picture at night. You shouldn't have a hot spot. So you have all these gimmicky things. So basically, let me just start. Luminar is a manufacturer of LED lighting, infrared and white light illuminator. And actually, Luminar means to light in Spanish. Okay. So we make long range, medium, short range infrared illuminators. Our longest distance on the IR is 919 feet at 10 degrees with one panel. And on the white light, it's 645 feet with one panel at 10 degrees. And we also, so then we have 30 degrees, 60, 100, and 120 degrees. We do general surveillance. We do license plate capture. As long as the camera's IR compatible, I can turn anybody's camera into a LPR camera. We've done that successfully. Medical facilities, anywhere there's a camera, there's light. And an external light fits the camera better because with the different fields of view, we can match the field of view of the light with the field of view of the camera. So you don't get the hot spots. You don't have to worry about those buzzwords of smart IR and all this kind of stuff. If you just learn to specify it correctly, which I can do with my eyes closed, so I always encourage people to get with me at sales@illuminarinc.com. They can email me and I can help them specify for any application.
Yeah, it's super important out there. If you're new to the industry, don't mislead your customers. A well illuminated field of view is, trust me, critical to capturing what you need to capture. Because if you leave that field of view to if you leave it, let's just say under illuminated, I guarantee you, whatever happens to your customer is going to happen in that area that's not illuminated well, and they're going to want to know, why did you do that to them?
Well, and the thing is, if they're buying a security surveillance system, they want to catch a criminal. But if there's no good lighting, then it's all in vain. Yeah. So the lights that are installed inside the camera are narrow fields of view. Most of the time, the distance that they specify is not correct. It comes up a bit short, and also it attracts insects. So let's just say you have a motion detector on your camera. Every time there's a moth or spider or something building a web, you're going to get a ping. Where you have an external light fixture that matches, again, the field of view of the camera and the distance. And then you have a great picture. And then in white light, the white light LEDs that we use simulate natural sunlight, so you get a true color picture at night. So you don't have to just go with black and white with infrared. Yeah,
and it's super critical for evidence, right? You really want to know what color was that car, what color was the clothing that person was wearing. Yes,
sure.
All that stuff.
All of that.
Absolutely
so white light
critical.
is becoming more popular with AI and video analytics.
Awesome. Great. That is great stuff. Tell me a little bit about power consumption. So we had back when I used to do this work, we had, the 110, right? You could get super, high voltage. And then I saw there was some changes to lower voltage stuff, but it didn't have quite the throw on it. So are we using USB power for these things today? Or are we still trying to get 110? What kind of power consumption are we talking about?
So our lights take a 12 to 24 volts DC, 24 volts AC input, but we also have a line that does PoE plus and high PoE. And then we partner with Ultronics for power supplies, because we don't sell power supplies. I'm not a power supply guru. I just know that my products have a 5-year warranty, and Ultronics allows my product to do that 5-year warranty because their spec does what it says it's going to do.
That's awesome. 5 years is a great warranty for our industry too.
Yes.
Well, we've got a couple of minutes left, Eddie. Let's see. Let me ask you a question. What's the most common problem that Illuminar gets called up to solve? Let's ask that one real quick.
Most of the time, to be honest, is that the LEDs in the camera went out.
Oh, wow.
The camera still works. So just like I said, the LEDs, because what happens, the LEDs and the electronics of the camera are inside of aluminum housing, but there's nowhere for the heat to dissipate from the LEDs. So they just die off. It's like if you wore a fur coat in the middle of summer and ran around, eventually you get heat stroke and then you die. So that's the same thing that's going on with the LEDs in the camera. So it's just people are intimidated by lighting, and the camera manufacturers have played on that. And, they come in all configurations. Some have this spaceship thing with the lights just pointing straight down. It's just so crazy. And when after they get their money, then they say, oh, you can't see. Okay, we'll call Eddie with a Luminar. So I'm kind of an afterthought, because they don't know about a Luminar in some cases. So.
All right, integrators, do your customer a favor. Get a hold of Eddie first before their LEDs burn up. Keep a happy customer. Make Eddie happy. Make our industry look better for doing the right thing in the first place. Eddie, thank you so much.
Add one more
thing.
Go
ahead.
We're getting our minority woman-owned certification. We're working on that. So hope to have that before the end of the year.
Awesome. Yeah, let us know. We can put you on our GSA schedule. We'll do some 8A work together. Appreciate you joining me today, Eddie, so much. And thanks for sharing with the industry. Take care of yourself. And I hope to see you in person soon. We can all get out of this coronation.
Me too. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a nice day, everybody.
Right. Aloha.
Aloha.